This past weekend, there's been some absolutely massive weights caught fishing pellet shallow from Viaduct. My old mate Ben Haggard, almost 400 pound of Viaduct. Willinghurst on the Fish South final. Ash had a brilliant second day fishing pellet shallow. And then he's done it again. Old Jamie Hughes up north has caught 500 pound fishing pellet shallow at Holcroft. Typically the weather isn't great today, but it's September time now and there's still plenty of fish up in the water looking to eat pellets and other baits. Today we're going to concentrate on pellets. There's a little bit of rain forecast today and there's a bit of wind, but I'm sure by fishing like this we're still going to catch an absolute boatload. So let me show you the ins and outs of fishing shallow with pellets. As with any kind of fishing, rigs are super important. And like all our other videos, simplicity is key. So let me just show you, I've got two shallow rigs set up, both identical apart from one very important difference. So let me just start with, this is our rig for sort of fishing in the feed and slapping a rig over. I just got some nice black hydro, 020 mainline, nice and strong, a 0.15 carbon cookie there, just got two little number 10s right underneath the float. When I'm fishing for carp, especially with pellets, I don't have no shot on the line, just let it fall naturally. A 6-inch hook length there, that's 015, and then I've got a 16 SLWG with a little bait band. Now you can see there, I've probably got, what have I got there, maybe 18-inch lash on that one. Now that's going to be a rig for fishing in the feed, slapping over, leaving it hang there. But I've got one more rig set up, and you can see straight away the length of the lash on this one. So everything's exactly the same, black hydro, 020, a 0.15 carbon cookie, 2 10s underneath the float, 6-inch hook length, 16-inch hook with a bait band. But the lash on this one is 3 foot. Now a good little guide, what I always tend to do for this kind of a rig is I just go off the length of my number 3 section. So I'll have, you can see there, the end of my elastic is just on the joint and then the rest of the rig is line. That's like a good way of setting this rig up. It's a nice little guide, you can keep using it over and over. And this rig is going to be more for probably earlier in the session, flicking around our feed when it's not really kicked in yet. Fish are on the back foot a little bit. We can swing this past our pellets. If one pops up the swimming by, we can use it as a mugging rig as well. And it's nice just to keep that pool tip away from the feed where the fish are. But when they really start feeding, we can drop on that other rig and clonk a few on that. So 2 rigs, 2 different purposes, both exactly the same apart from the difference in lash length. That's really important on this rig. So like I touched on with the rigs, there's a few different ways of catching them with pellet shallow. One is by flicking that long line past your feed, flicking at fish that are swimming around just on the outskirts of your feed, and then we've got our shorter lash, slapping a rig over, a super popular way of catching them. But some venues you don't even have to feed, you just constantly turn your rig over, like the live match I done at Barston recently, check that one out. The second day there was loads of that kind of fish, and I think I had 11 big old units to win that. No feed, just constantly slapping an 8mm over, that can be really good. And also, when there's some fish in your feed eating the pellets, sometimes just leaving it hang there can be the best way of catching them. Just leave it hang, then all of a sudden your pole will bend over and there's one grabbed onto it. So there's 3 different ways that we're going to fish for these carp shallow on 2 different rigs, pellets on the hook, loose feeding pellets. I'm sure it's going to be a brilliant session again. This is definitely a tactic to have in your armoury all over the country, wherever you go where there's carp. This method is absolutely brilliant. So it's worth spending some time getting good at it, learning it, and then when you finally draw the good peg with loads of carp, you can put it into practice and make the most of it. So let's check out the bait and then let's crack on with some fishing. So when it comes to bait, obviously we're going to be using pellets, but I'm going to be using 2 different sizes. So to start, I'll always start, I've got some nice 6mm there. These are a great starting point because I don't want to go then hammer loads of bait in early doors. This, to start with, we're just going to be dinking a few pellets in, feeling our way into the session. Sometimes just by pinging 2 or 3 pellets and just slapping your rig in can be a brilliant way of catching them. And that's like, I'd always tend to start like that, on the back foot, a little bit of feed, see how we get on, and you can always up it from there. But one thing that's absolutely deadly and can change your peg like a flick of a switch is by feeding 4mm. And absolutely rafting them in, pouchfuls of them, get loads of noise, loads of competition in your peg. And what I've got for that, I've got some white cell 4mm pellets. Now I like these because they're really light and they hang up in the water for a long time. So when you're rafting them in, they'll sort of stick in the surface film, then drop down and you'll get carp all swirling amongst them and then you can mug them or catch them in the feed. So we've got some nice 4mm there. They are really nice. If you ever want to like raft loads of pellets in, those white cell ones are brilliant for that. And then just for the hook, I've got some Nice small 8mm, they're like a scretiny kind of a pellet. They're lovely for the hook. They're not too big, like a big Carpin's pellet can be a bit too obvious at times, but just by fishing like a little 8mm scretting, stands out a little bit more from your loose feed, but still isn't too garish and in their face. And then always fishing shallow with pellets or on the bottom, you've always got to have a couple of red pellets. So I've got a couple of red pellets. All they are is there's a few cell ones in there, there's a couple of scratting ones, and I've just put a little bit of red Captivate on them. They've been soaked for about 2 weeks. So I just put the colourant on them and leave them out in the air to dry. If you put the lid straight back on, obviously it's going to be wet and they'll go to mush. So you've got to dry them out. Like I put them in an airing cupboard or something and they'll be absolutely perfect. So the bait is super simple. 6mm pellets, 4mm pellets for feeds, a couple of red ones for the hook and a couple of 8s for the hook. Right, so we are ready to begin. And to start with, I'm going to pick up my long lash rig. Now, with regards to distance, the weather is going to play a massive part on how far you fish. I know it looks nice and calm, but just now it blew his absolute head off for a second and blew the tripods over. So I'm just going to fish 13 metres to start with. It's going to be weather dependent and fishery dependent. The bigger the venue, normally the further out you've got to go. If you went to Larford or Boston, you'd be fishing like 16 metres, whereas smaller venues, 12, 13, 14 metres is plenty. So it'll be weather dependent, venue dependent as well. Now to start, I'm just going to start off. I've got a small little Scretins 8mm in a band. That's going to be our little starting point because I'm going to start off on our longer lash rig where I can kind of flick around my feed, and what I'll be doing early doors is just keeping my eyes peeled for an odd mugger. So to start, I've got my little sort of on the water when you're looking around, I've picked out a nice dark patch. There's a tree on the opposite bank and it's casting a nice dark shadow and I'm fishing right in the middle. So when I haven't got my pole out there, say if I wanted to start on a method feeder or short, I've got a marker where to ping my pellets. And the same, any kind of shallow fishing is about building your peg up. I wouldn't necessarily, be straight out on this. I'd probably be starting short, catching what I can and just pinging a few pellets, get their confidence built up and then make your move and get in there and catch a few. So I'm just going to, we might be a little bit early on it yet, but I'm just, as you can see there, I'm just sort of pinging 4 pellets, quite regular. I'm using the light Guru catapult, really nice for grouping pellets that is, nice hard plastic pouch. I'm going to start off at sort of 17-inch, normally is a good sort of starting depth. Now there's a fish just swirled past my feed and that's where this long line rig really comes into its own. So let's just ping a few more and then let's ship out. I should have my Polaroids on really, just in case there's an odd cruiser pops by. But to start with, what it's going to be, I'm just going to ship out to my dolly butt and then all I want to do is I just want to flick past those pellets where they've gone in. Pick it out. See how that's just flicking just past my pole tip there? And then a couple of pellets, let it hang there for a second. See that wind is naughty now, but because we're only fishing 13 metres, it's quite easy to control. I really should have put my glasses on really because I'm sure there will be an odd fish just mooching about. So just flick out past. Lovely plop off those pellets. But by fishing like this, you can sort of get a gauge of what's going to happen. You're not going to wreck your peg by hammering loads of pellets in. Just keep plopping. Don't be afraid to flick like left and right as well. Not just past your feeds, go around the outskirts. Give it a little slap over. Maybe a little bit more noise might get you a bite. And what you want to try and do as well is that line you've got between your tip and your float. I know it's a long line, it's like 3 foot, but just try and keep that as tight as possible. There's a carp literally just swirled on my float there, so I'm just going to lift my rig out, plop it back in. If he's still there, he might grab that. There's one just past my rig there now, so we'll just flick that out. I'm not sure which way he was going then. I think there was a swirl. And there we are. I just seen him mooching off the back of that feed then. And that's what's so nice about this rig, it's super versatile. Like if I was on our other rig there, I wouldn't have had enough line to flick on him. But that's a nice little start, that is, just by, you know, super negative with the feed. You can see you'd only ping in like 3 and 4 pellets at a time. And that feels like a nice fish. Got that black hydro in, so they're not going to rip us across the lake. Oh yeah, that's a serious fish, that is. There's enough guts in it to control these carp. I don't like fishing super light elastics if I can help it. I like something with a bit more guts. Oh, look at that thing. That's a bruiser. Oh yeah. Now he was just loitering off the back of those pellets. I see a little tail pattern. Go on, boy. Go on. Come on, in. Get in there. There we go. What a start. That's probably one of the biggest fish I've ever caught in this lake, that is. Oh yeah, look at that. Absolute beast. Over literally no feed. So one thing you want to try and do is, if you can, is get your float out of the net as quick as you can. Now whilst that's just sat in the pan there, a couple of pellets, just keep them dinking in. Oh, he's hooked lovely right in the middle of the top lip. Dare I try and hold him up? I've got to try because that's such a nice fish, that is. I'll see what we can do with him. Oh, we don't like that. Come on. Come on, be good now. Let's have a look at you. Look at that. First drop in. Have some of that. I'm going to put him back because he's super lively. He's 10 or 12 pound he is. Come on, out to the pan. He's that big, I can't get him out of the pan. There he goes. Beautiful. What a start. What a smash. So straight away again now. First thing on my mind, a couple of pellets. Always looking to feed, keep that feed going in. So it's like 4 pellets twice. Where's my rig gone? What's nice with those little 8mm scratchings is there's just enough weight to flick, to flick past your feed in them. So that means you don't need like a heavy float. You don't have to use the float as the weight. You're just using the pellet. Just make sure everything's settled up. What I'm going to do, I'm just going to shallow up a little bit. Probably like 14 inch because there's another one just swirled there now. There's an odd fish there, quite high, so sections together, same as any kind of shallow fishing. It's about that constant feed going in. So there we go. Just gonna keep my eyes peeled. And then I just want to flick that in past. I won't feed straight away now. What I'll do, I'll use my pellet. There's a bit of noise. There's a fish there, look, just past again. Give it a couple of plops in. See if I can catch one. An early dose is quite important just to keep lifting that rig out and plopping it in. So that's one right in my feed then. Look, see that swirl just back from my pole tip there? Definitely a few fish off the back of this wind here. So nothing like that for a minute, so I'm just going to give it 1 or 2 slaps. I don't want to slap the guts out of it yet. I took it on the slap, that one there. Another nice fish. So a couple of pellets, what's these on? Just early on, I don't want to go there and make a hell of a commotion, just like 1 slap, 1, 2 slaps, let it sit there. So this is a brilliant start just by fishing like this. See there, that elastic is absolutely perfect for this kind of game. It's another big fish, that is. Look at him, look. So just keep everything nice and low because he's one of those big nodders, and then last second just lift up, scoop him. Hook pulled in the net, but we got him anyway. There you are, look. Nice big common. Pop him straight back. Now that's probably 2 fish for getting on for £20 there. So with regards to hooks, there's 3 sort of different patterns I like to use when fishing with pellets. Firstly, for like, you know, a bit of all-round fishing, you know, medium to, you know, small, medium and an odd big carp, I really like a 16 SLWG. I think it's an amazing hook. But if you're fishing with a slightly bigger pellet and you're missing a few bites, then a brilliant hook I've been using recently that my mate Robbie Taylor put me onto is the 16 pellet waggler. It's got a real wide gape on it and a long point. So if you're missing a few bites, try putting one of them on. Because of the wide gape, a lot of times it'll catch hold. And then if I'm going to somewhere like recently when I went to Barston, caught some huge fish shallow or larford, I'll always opt for a SMWG, thicker wire, nice and strong, still quite small, but you know, when they're in, they really bed in, and I've never ever had one of them straighten. So it's worth having a couple of different patterns tied up. Like I've got 3 patterns, like I said, for my shallow fishing. This one for my, you know, sort of all-round fishing, when you're not really sure what's going to happen. If you're missing a few bites, that pellet waggler hook is amazing. And then if you're fishing for those big old units that'll drag you across the pond, oh, look at that, on the plop. You want one of those SMWGs. A 16 I tend to use, but if you're fishing for them huge ones, you know, don't be afraid of putting a 14 on if you're using a big old Coppins pellet. Just try and marry everything up to the size of your hook bait. Like I wouldn't want to use this hook if I was using a big 8mm Coppins pellet. It's just all out of place. That's where I'd use a pellet waggler hook to start with. But this is a beautiful bit of fishing early doors. Oh yeah. He was just past the feed there on the plop of the pellet. Just as we've been talking, I've been pinging a few pellets and sort of almost just lined this one up really. So I'm going to trap that pole underneath my arm there now. A few pellets. Really important just to keep those pellets plopping in. And that's a beautiful fish again, that is. So I'll just take my time with him. He didn't really fight on the way back, so chances are he might end up having a little go under our feet now, but it don't matter. We get him. Oh, look. See, that's what we've got to watch. There you go. Oh yes, nice fish again. They're so big, the stamp of these shallow fish. Oh no. And I don't know if you can see there, but that is an absolutely perfect hook hold. You are right middle of the top lip, look at that. How clean do you want him? So just unhook him. Back he goes. So again, even before I bait up, a couple of pellets on my best feed, that one. Try and keep, that's better, try and keep your pellets this side of where you're fishing. You don't want to be spraying them past your pole tip like I did on that feed there. So when you're feeding, make sure, like I didn't really concentrate then, I've gone a little bit gung-ho and I've got a bad feed from that, but You know, you're always going to have an odd bad feed, but try and keep them to a minimum. Try and keep your pellets your side. So there we are. There's a hook bait. Just check your rig, make sure the float hasn't moved yet. We're sound there. Again now, a couple of pellets. One is just swirled there, so there's one in the area. So I'll give them a couple of pellets twice. And then just straight away flick out past my feed, let it plop in, let it sit there just a second while that's sitting there. A couple of pellets. There's a fish there, and this is what you've got to keep your eyes on. One is just swimming there, so I'm just going to slap that rig right there. You just see a V, and these are the little chances you want to try and take. If you see an odd fish cruising past, don't let him go past or put a rig on him. And what you'll find is when we switch this to 4 mils, you'll probably get a lot of fish a lot higher. You'll see more signs of fish, and then you can sort of almost sight fish for them a little bit more. So let's see if we can get another just like this. Super negative, but a brilliant way to start your session. And once you're fishing like this, because you're not feeding loads and loads of bait, you can always pick up that, you know, if you're not catching shallow, if they haven't turned up, you can always drop on the bottom when you've just got a few pellets dropping in. Whereas when we start hammering, see there's a fish there now, look. Let's see if you can flick it on. No, it's too far out of range, Alan. I'm just going to slap this rig over a couple of times because we've had a fish like that. Just 3 little slaps. Because there's obviously fish swimming around here. It's just about trying to drag one into your hook bait. No bites. There we go, it's one on the slap. So obviously that little bit of noise is making a difference. So I think what I'm going to do, I'm going to get this fish in, and then let's try rafting those 4 mils in and see if we can get our peg absolutely solid with them. It's a slightly smaller one, look. Still a nice fish though. There we go. Nice little golden common. He's a nice fish. Can't even hold these fish up, they're so lively they are, look. He's nice. Right. Let's try picking up the other rig, the more of a slapping rig, and start busting out those 4 mils. Right, so we've changed rigs. We're on our little short lash rig now for fishing in the feed, and a bit nicer for slapping. So what I'm going to do before we ship out, and we're really looking to attack it now, plenty of pellets. So the difference that they're making going in now. So I'll give them 2 pouches of them. 3 pouches actually to start. A completely different noise, more of a spreader bait, loads more particles, and they will hang a little bit higher for longer than those 6 mils will. Let's get in amongst it. And I'm just going to slap my rig over a couple of 3 times. I've got a shorter little lash there now, so I'm just going to try and hold on to that float. I might even put a couple of back shots on it. Let's see if we can get a few, really competing in the feed now. This can sometimes change your peg from an odd fish to get carp absolutely crawling up for the pellets. So I'm slapping it a couple of times again. There you are, see that fish there then? And that's what they do on the formulas. You get a lot more signs of fish sort of swirling and stuff. He just came out with his lips out the water then, so what we're going to have to do again is keep an eye out for them. So I'm just going to pop in a 6mm in a band this time. There we go, one of them. The same pellets that we were feeding earlier on. See him there now? Straight away, since feeding these formulas, we've definitely got more fish in our peg. Let's flick it in. Let's see if a 6mm is a little bit more kind of, not match the hatch, but not so much in their face now that we're feeding formula pellets. Now there's a carp there. Just gonna, like I said earlier on, take my chance, try and mug him. No. Try again. Anytime you see anything like that, I feel like you've got to take your chance, and if you can just catch a few of them through the match to add to what you've caught in the feed, you're going to have a decent weight come the end. There's another fish there now. It's a little bit of a job to see him. I haven't got my glasses on, and there's a lot of white water here, so it's hard to see actually which way they're facing. But there's certainly a lot more activity now that we've changed to these formulas. We just need to figure out how to get them on the hook. There we go. All of a sudden it feels like there's loads more fish in our peg. So now that we're halfway back, just take your chances to feed when you can. Like, I know my pole is nice and secure there, so I'll feed there now. And what I feel like when you're fishing with these 4mm is, it's like when you're fishing with casters, it's really important to keep them going in. So I'm back to a top kit now. Have a nice pouch. I'm just keeping my eye on that feed, see if I can see any whilst I'm playing this fish. There's a carp there slightly to the right, so I think we're going to have a chance of mugging a few of these in a minute now. Oh, nice fish. Lovely. Hey, what, you right? Goodbye. He's hooked right in the middle of the top lip again. There we go. So a tremendous difference since we sort of just changed from them dinking a few 6mm in to rafting 4mm in. We've had one lost one, but that you can see now fish mooching around the feed there. So before I ship in some pellets, There's one just past the feed, so I'm going to keep on this rig for just a second. But if they're going to stay on the outskirts of my feed, I'm going to pick that long lash rig back up again. Old helicopter coming over here now. Oh, there was a fish just slightly to my right then, but I want to try and mug them when they come into camera shots so you can see it, but so just keep. Oh, what's a bite? Just slap that right in the middle of those 4 mils. Brilliant way of catching carp, shallow. So much fun, especially when you hook those big old units and they explode on the top. Don't get much better than that. Just keep turning that rig into the feed. What I'll try now, I'll just try hanging it there. Oh, there you are. See that fish there now? Like, with my flick rig, I'd have got to him. So just leave that hang. Bit of sun coming out now. Sun, rain and wind all together here. Yeah, there's some fish past my feed there, so I'm just going to give this a... Oh, there you are. One on the slap, look. I really want to pick that long lash rig up. I think it's just a little bit more versatile for the minute because I feel like we're missing a few chances by fishing this rig. But don't feel like they're proper in the feed smashing it up at the minute. They're still like... Well, there's an odd one in there, obviously, because we're catching an odd one on the slap, but it feels like there's more fish just past. Now, that fish is going... Whilst that fish is playing up... Well, one's just swirled right in the feed again there. 2 more big pouches. I don't know if you've seen that fish on the camera there. Probably just about caught that on the close-up. Past the feed, so I'm going to pick that long lash rig up now, because it feels to me like they're just hanging off the back of it. This fish is going nuts. As soon as I'm back to that top, make sure I trap it all in between my legs and my elbows, got it. Oh yeah, look at these carp here now. Now they're coming up. 2 big pouches. So when you're fishing these 4 mils, it's almost exactly like fishing casters, really. You really up in the feed, feeding plenty of bait. Because they're smaller particles, you can always get away with feeding a lot more. Where's this going? Is this a big fish then? Or was it one of those little squeakers going ballistic? Well, you can see the difference since we've been rafting with 4 mils, the amount of fish is dragged in front of us. So you can see them, you'll be able to see them on the camera now everywhere, see them? It's just an absolute fighting machine, I think. Oh yeah, it's a nice fish, that is. There we go. Oh yeah, it's a lovely fish, that is. He's full of fight, that one. Right, so down with this rig. But straight away, conscious that they haven't fed for a little bit now, so 2 nice pouches of 4 mils. Get them in there. Now that rig is a 13 inch at the minute, so I'm just going to slide it down to like 10 inch. So fishing like pretty shallow there now. And what I'm going to do is just going to put a 6 mil on this rig as well. So there we go. So a little 6 mil in the band. Now you can see how this has completely changed the peg now. So let's feed 2 lots. And as I'm shipping out, I'm keeping my eyes peeled. Might bump into one on the way out there. Let's just try this. There's a fish there. That's right in amongst him, that is. No. Ooh. There he is, look. Look at him, look. Hmm. There's one there now. Come on. There we go. Some serious fish in our feed now. I think what I'm going to try, I'm just going to try a little red pellet. Just see if that'll pick me out a quicker bite. Look at them fish in our feed. Look, see I'm swirling up. Make sure I feed some bait again. I don't think they like that pole tip too near them because there's not. When I ship away, there always seems to be a lot more fish in my peg. So what I might do this time is just ship up half a section shorter and then just flick my rig into the feed so the pole tip isn't directly over them. Some nice fish feeding today. Come on. That's a nice one, about £5. Right in the corner of the mouth, that one. Straight away I'm going to feed again. I'm just going to pop on a little red 6mm, I think. Something a little bit more visual. This isn't like a super coloured lake, but I feel like we should be getting a couple more quick bites. So there's a little red in there. And then it's just about keep doing everything that you're doing before you ship out. Give them some pellets. Keep those old eyes peeled. So I'm going to do this time. I'm just going to come like half a section shorter so my pole isn't over the feed, and then just plop that pellet in. Try and keep my pole away from them. That one has just literally swirled on my float then. Come on. There we go. Now that worked a bit better. Like I say, it's because it's not really a super coloured like by your normal commercial fishery. Don't tend to get like chocolate brown, so they might be a little bit wary of that pole tip. That's perhaps why this rig is a little bit better than our other one. And they're all super angry in here. Come on, boy. Nice fish. I'd love to fish more matches on here. They do have some, I'm not sure, I think it's 1 or 2 a month. I've only ever fished one match on here and he was absolutely amazing. Look at them in the feed now, look at them, see them? What a difference this changing to 4 mils. Long lean common. So that red pellet definitely got us a quick bite that time. Come on, brother, out you get. There we go. Got them fish in the feed there now. Look at him, look. Now he's eating that. There we go, he's eating it. So I hope you've enjoyed that little shallow pellet tutorial. As you've seen, we've caught nice little start, just dinking a few 6 mils in. 3 or 4 pellets, just got constant flick over a bait. And our longer lash rig, flickering in and around the feed. And we did have an odd one slapping as well on it. And then as soon as that sort of waned and we felt like it was going away from us a little bit, changing to those 4 mils has been absolutely unbelievable. The amount of fish we've got in our peg, just from changing the size of pellets, is unbelievable. We picked up that shorter rig, caught a few like that, but again, we found ourselves back on this long lash rig, which I think has definitely been the rig of the day. But always have the 2 set up, because other days you'll just be able to fish right in your feed, and with that shorter lash you'll be able to just get them, literally pulling your elastic out. He's hooked right in the middle of the top lip again. An 8 mil pellet to start with, just to flick around, but what we found now is that little 6 mil Robin Red has been an absolute game changer on the hook, picking out those fish so much quicker than just a naturally coloured pellet. So I hope there's plenty in there for you to take away with. Get out, do some shallow fishing before the end of the year comes. We've only probably got 6 weeks of this left. And as you've seen today, it's such an amazing way of catching loads and loads of carp. I hope you've enjoyed that tutorial. Don't forget, like and subscribe to the channel. It always helps us grow, and that's what it's all about. So for now, I'm definitely going to carry on, because as you can see, the fishing is absolutely amazing. But I'll catch up with you next week with another video.